I jumped the gun, and we do have Sister Ruth Standiford to come and talk to us as a representative of peace in the hood.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. On behalf of our CEO, Amir Khalid Samad, I bring you greetings of peace. I want to recognize that we will also be signing the wall. And I also, Judy did not bring up something she did that should be brought up, and that was her work with the families of the women in Imperial Avenue. We're all aware that was probably one of our most violent acts that we have seen, and Judy worked very tirelessly with these families and collaborating with other organizations. Peace in the Hood is a nonviolent, works with gang-involved and at risk of becoming gang-involved youth and their families. We have a mission statement that we are about peace, justice, and empowerment, because you cannot have one of the three without the others. We work with a very difficult population. A lot of our kids, we see a lot of you. I've seen Blaine at more homicides than I would care to mention, and Judy as well, and also Sister Raj here. Our organization operates many levels of programming. You're used to seeing us on TV, but you're not used to some of the behind-the-scenes things that we do. We run an after-school program that teaches, among other things, entrepreneurship. We take these kids who don't have job opportunities, and we teach them how to run their own internet business, because that is part of nonviolence, because some of the kids that are on the street are there because they cannot make a living, they don't have an education, they don't have a home, and yet they're supposed to feed their families. So we teach some of these kids how to operate that. We teach the kids rites of passage. We teach nonviolent crisis intervention and mediation. We had a peace camp this past summer that operated on the principle of Ubuntu, which is an African principle that teaches that we are all one community. This is our second year for peace camp, and it was quite astounding. On the heels of the Imperial Avenue tragedy, we began with Don Bryant here, and a couple of other people, an initiative called Art for Peace, where we brought together the children and the families who lived in the Imperial Avenue to use art as a way of expressing themselves. We have continued that initiative. I grew up, I was particularly touched by this, I grew up in the South. I am not from Cleveland. And I grew up in the heyday of the Civil Rights era. I have seen the Klan in full-blown racist bigotry burning crosses. I have seen them riding down the streets. I have seen them burn houses and all kinds of acts of violence. I remember very well when the 3 civil rights workers were murdered, because Mississippi is the next state to Louisiana. I remember the fear, and I remember what it looked like to see the National Guard with weapons rolling down your street. And when you feel like an occupied country almost. The violence has to stop, and it has to stop somewhere. There isn't going to be some group that's going to come in. It starts with each and every one of us, one person at a time. My freshman year in college, we were on lockdown. I went to Louisiana State University my first 2 years, and in January, 2 students were gunned down at Southern University. We were on lockdown. We had to be in the dorms at 6 o'clock. There were riots. I've seen all of that. Violence affects the quality of life with everyone. The Centers for Disease Control have a statistic on there that is frightening. The cost of youth violence and violence to society is in excess of $450 billion. And I want you to stop for a minute and think how many homeless people that would house, how many programs that help families that would fund, how many schools that would fund, how many libraries, how much food could be bought for the homeless, how much medical care could be provided. But it has to start somewhere. And in closing, we at Peace in the Hood are absolutely going to sign the wall and support in any way, shape, or form we can do this, because I want to see 11-year-olds like Brandon Davis be able to get out of a playground without getting a gunshot in the back. I want to see kids like 12-year-old Cookie Thomas be able to go from the store to their house without being in the middle of a bullet and catching a bullet. I'm tired of going down and going to funerals, and I'm tired of going to prisons to visit the rest of them, because that is 2 lives lost, not just one. In closing, Mahatma Gandhi was a very good, very positive influence in my life, but he said we must be the change in the world that we want to see. And I'm going to also challenge you. As a society, we're very big on wondering and saying what we have a right to do, and it's time we stop worrying about what we have a right to do and start worrying about what the right thing to do is. And with this, thank you again. We're very honored to be here, and I want to encourage everyone to support the wall and be the change that you want to see in the world. Assalamu alaikum.